thank you for tuning in. You're watching The Property Guide on ET Now. As ET Now turns 5 years old on the 17th of June, we have a very special episode planned for you this week. We're joined by a distinguished panel of experts who will give us their top investment picks for the next 5 years, given the change of guard we've had at our capital and in some of our states. Now remember, if you have any feedback or questions about anything you hear on the show today, feel free to write to us. Our email ID is at the bottom of your screen. You can also reach us on Facebook and on Twitter. On the show this week, with ET Now turning 5, we give you investment destinations for the next 5 years. Right on top, we have Ahmedabad, followed by Chennai, Vijayawada and Hyderabad. We're going to get to each of those cities in a little while, but joining us in the studios right now, Om Ahuja, CEO of Residential Services at JLL India. Om, thank you for coming in. And Jayashree Kurup, Head of Content and Research at magicbricks.com. Jayashree, thank you for joining us. Om, before we get to talking about your specific picks, up till now we were talking about cities like Bangalore, Mumbai, talking about the NCR. Does the change of guard in our capital now change everything in the sector?
Well, I would say nothing changes in terms of those cities remain top picks. Identifying new picks is something which is basically being, considered at this point of time. So Bangalore continues to be a top pick. Chennai continues to be a top pick. We will see job creation continuing to do very well in these two cities. But coming to new picks in India at this point of time is something where you basically want to see that, if your capital can grow much more faster than normally it grows, we would say that Bangalore, Chennai will continue to do well. But there are two new picks which we will discuss today. To discuss in terms of...
So tell me this, what sort of capital appreciation can we expect to get from cities like Bangalore over the next 5 years? And if we move into these cities that will give us more, what can we expect from them?
Bangalore will continue to be the top in terms of charts for next at least 2.5 years till we see real action moving into new cities. We would continue to see Bangalore currently is doing at around 18% per annum. We would see Bangalore currently continuing to keep that momentum on. And Chennai would actually again be at a little higher percentage compared to Bangalore because the ticket sizes are much more different in Chennai and much more reasonable in all aspects. So these two cities which we are going to discuss today are the cities where we believe the capital appreciation in over a 5-year to 8-year period will be much more better, maybe 20% plus compared to cities like Chennai and Bangalore, which will be 15 to 18% per annum growth.
All right, Jayashree, come in here. Now, this new government, of course, seems to have very, very big, ambitious plans as far as urban development is concerned. Everybody in this country will have their own home by 2020. That's the plan right now. Also, there is another ambitious plan for 100 new smart cities. How much of this do you think is going to take a while before we see hit the ground? And how much of this do you think is realistic?
I think, Faye, what was missing till now was the political will. And today, I think Prime Minister Modi is showing that he is going after results. So there is a very high level of anticipation in among citizens. We did something very different. We went back to our consumers on magicbricks.com, and over the weekend we asked them to tell us what they think are the major things that can make their city smart. And they came back saying that about 50% said that it is transport links that we're looking at. In a smart city, transport links, efficient transport links are very important. Another 15% each said we want good civic amenities and non-polluted cities. These would make our cities smart. Also, I think some of the problems that they highlighted, which they don't want to see in their smart cities, is about 58% said that drainage, waterlogging is one of the biggest challenges, and they would like to see their smart cities without them. About 35% wanted have power cuts of 2 to 4 hours, and this is something that they don't want to live with. And about 57% said water services. Essentially, what is coming through is that they want a smart city that will make their life livable, that is convenient to live in. So, is it realistic? Yes, I think it is realistic. We can move towards that, but ours is a crisis of planning. Whenever we talk about our new cities, our existing cities, ours is a crisis of planning. And if we can actually put urban planning up front, I think it is an eminently doable prospect.
Well, obviously, we have to make it clear to our audience at this point that we do not know what is on that list of 100 smart cities that the government will be targeting. But of our existing cities right now, which one do you think is closest to becoming a smart city if we go by the criteria that Jayashree just listed?
Ahmedabad stands out in our in scheme of things in terms of analysis what we have done, because at this point of time we have seen Ahmedabad as being a blue collar market. people working in factories. There are a lot of more factories which have opened in the last 10, 12 years in Ahmedabad. Those factory workers or maybe the people who work in those industries don't have that kind of money which they can go and buy large size apartments or premium apartments or luxury apartments. So
as
Ahmedabad
the
has
IT
been,
sector would normally...
As IT sector would be. Husband and wife in an IT put together would be earning more than 10, 12 lakh rupees per annum, whereas an industry worker would not be earning more than 5 lakh rupees per annum. So this is really a more money in the pocket moment you go into services sector versus the manufacturing sector. What we see is Ahmedabad standing out on that aspects.
Now, we have seen that Ahmedabad has a problem right now of oversupply. There's a lot of construction that has happened. Like you said, it has not managed to attract the kind of talent to buy into all of that supply. It has the education institutions, but the tendency is to get an education in Ahmedabad and then move out somewhere else to study. How much of that do you think is going to change over the next 5 years?
Well, we would see the current supply in Ahmedabad is primarily in the range of between 3,500 rupees per square feet to 5,000 rupees per square feet. And that supply will get absorbed once we see the more and more jobs specifically coming to service sector in Ahmedabad. With Bombay and Delhi industrial corridor being opened up, that's primarily going to be the focus or area of the government. If this happens, Ahmedabad will be the biggest beneficiary, Bombay-Delhi corridor. And that will actually result into more jobs, and that jobs will result into more demand. So the segment what we are currently seeing, the supply coming in Ahmedabad, is primarily coming from the unknown developers, local developers, primarily standalone buildings. So what we are going to see in Ahmedabad is gated communities is going to be what is going to be picked up. And we will see suddenly spurt in terms of jobs, and that will get absorption, and that will basically help lot more market to evolve.
Okay, so tell me this. Now, if there's a viewer right now who's looking to take a position in Ahmedabad and make an investment, purely as an investment based on your recommendation, what sort of a bracket should they be looking at? What sort of a time horizon should we have? So obviously, there's Godrej properties, for example, in Ahmedabad selling at a certain ticket size. Should we be looking at that? Should we be looking at smaller houses?
But I would say one should restrict to basically known developers rather than going to unknown developers, because it's an investment. Unless you are an actual user and you're going to a location-specific recommendation where you want to live in that lane or you want to a specific area and you can't compromise on it, then you have to go for a local developer. Preferably, if you're an investor, just stick around with large names like Godrej or Adani. These are the two large developments coming up in Ahmedabad.
So Ahmedabad is the top pick there. I'm going to move on to Jayashree. Jayashree, you picked Chennai, and I'll ask you the same question again. Why does Chennai, in your book, score over Bangalore? And if Bangalore will give us 15% annualized, why do you think Chennai will give us more?
Chennai is at a lower price point. When you enter at a lower price point, you can expect better appreciation. And Chennai is a city that has everything going for it in terms of manufacturing, IT, very well planned economic corridors, and residential catching up along those corridors. One interesting fact that we've noticed is Chennai's development and growth and demand is not restricted only to the IT-driven corridors. We see that there are two distinct kind of demands in Chennai. One is the old Chennai areas where there is some amount of redevelopment happening, and governance it does not seem to be so much of an issue in Chennai. As a result, there seems to be a latent demand which is being catered to by redevelopment, and that has already started. We are in very early stages of that redevelopment. In addition to which, along the IT corridors, there is still a lot of development that is to come up. So if you look at the 3 to 5 year horizon, I would say that, this is a user's pick. Users feel that Chennai is the city that they would actually give the thumbs up to.
Within Chennai, give me the location that you think will do the best over the next 5 years.
You know, Faith, it's difficult to pick up one locality, but I would say that if given good development, the IT corridor from OMR, ECR and, the GST to maybe even areas like where the Hirko Palace Gardens was. These are the Sri Perambudur corridor. Both manufacturing and IT, once the economy picks up, these are the two things that will drive development. And there is some amount of stock, a lot of stock coming up, and sees very, very strong demand there. Also, in central Chennai, places like Anna Nagar, we are seeing a revival there, and there is a revival of demand. So these are areas where the rental returns are very high. You have to put in a little more to enter these areas, but we see returns happening, and this should be continuing.
Oh, you wanted to add to that?
Well, I would say absolutely right. Jayashree has identified the areas in Chennai. I think one more area which looks very, very promising in Chennai is ECR. And specifically till date, ECR was a market which was more a villa market or maybe a bungalow market or maybe a market which is basically who could afford it. Now ECR is changing into an apartment market. ECR has seen a lot of new high rises which are coming up. that's a market to watch for and a great market to be at early point of time.
All right, so we have two big picks. We talked about Ahmedabad and we talked about Chennai. And if you're looking to make an investment, here is a list of projects that we find interesting at this point that our panel of experts have put together. Take a look. So if you're looking to invest in Ahmedabad, here are some options. On the SG Highway, Shanti Gramangan and Pratham from the Adani Group and Vrindavan from Godrej Properties. Arohi Crest from Siddhi Developers, Applewoods and Orchid Harmony from Goyal and Safal. If Chennai is the city you'd prefer, then on the OMR Road, there's Garden City from DLF Southern Homes, City Chennai from PBEL Property Development and Aura from True Value Homes. There's Hazel from VGM and Grande from the Olympia Group. But I'm going to quickly take one question before we go into break. Maulik Modi has written in, he wants to buy a one-bedroom apartment in Ahmedabad with a budget of 30 lakh rupees. Give him some projects and good locations in the heart of the city. Tell us what locations you think would give him the best rental returns and probably the most promise at this point.
Well, Ahmedabad at this point of time is not a rental market what we would recommend at this point of time. It's more a capital appreciation market one should look for next 5 to 7 years. Considering the budget 30 lakh rupees, it will be a good budget for 1 BHK. And specifically when it comes to the two projects which I mentioned as Adani and Godrej, makes sense to look at these two projects. And Ahmedabad as a market where it has expanded in terms of value appreciation has already happened in the satellite area. But areas which are basically in outskirts at CG Road towards Gandhinagar, that's the area worth watching for.
All right. Jayashree, do you have anything for him in Ahmedabad, 30 lakh rupees?
Checked out the site and I'll tell you what's available there. We have Vejalpur and Vasna. Again, 1 BHK like Om said, and in this 30 lakh budget he should be able to get. The rental returns, again I agree with Om, it's roughly about 5,500 to about 9,500 for really premium units.
It's time for us to take a very quick break, but when we come back, we're going to turn our sights down south. We'll talk about Hyderabad. We'll also talk about Vijayawada and Guntur. We'll find out why it's interesting right now. Welcome back. You're watching the Property Guide in ET Now. Thank you for staying with us. Both Om and Jayashree are with us as well. And on this show, we've asked them to pick investment ideas within the property sector that they think are going to do really, really well over the next 5 years. Now, remember, before we went into break, we talked about Chennai and we talked about Ahmedabad. Now, the second picks from both of our guests, interestingly, are in the Simandra and the Telangana region. Om, you've picked Vijayawada. Tell us, first of all, I mean, there's so much changing right now, and these were areas that had tremendous potential before the whole political turmoil started. If it gets the right political conviction at this point and the right push, how far can Simandra go on its own?
But I would say three things one need to look at Simandra. Simandra has its own strengths in terms of it's an agricultural state now. It's not what Telangana has strengths, which is basically having mines, having basically natural resources, what Simandra has, but it's more gas, what is basically in the coastal area of Simandra. But what we're looking at Simandra is job creation. And job creation specifically when it comes to IT and IT related services. We'll have to watch now what Chandrababu Naidu is going to do to ensure that the new capital or any other specific city which he's going to pick up, specifically that can compete directly heads on with Bangalore. So what we are seeing is that move will actually help us ascertain which city is something which we can look for in terms of capital appreciation, serious amount of capital appreciation that can happen in Simandra. So at this point of time, what makes us feel is Guntur Vijayawada is a belt which is exactly in center of the state in terms of when you go to north and when you go to south. That's a big location which we believe should actually do well, and there's a lot more speculation on the ground which has already started. The land prices have doubled in last 45 days in terms of when it comes to basically negotiating. Of course, deals have not happened, but a lot of transactions which are being quoted, discounted, are basically happening at double the price what was happening 45 days. Too early at this point of time to speculate in terms of which developer, which project, what is going to happen there. As a destination, we believe it's on the riverbank. It doesn't have a problem what most people face, most cities face is water. And specifically when it comes to basically if it's going to take heads on with Bangalore in terms of IT destination, it will take at least 3 to 4 years' time.
Another very quick question. When we talked about Ahmedabad a little earlier, you said go in for national developers, known developers, reputed developers. How many of those are there in Vijayawada?
Well, I would say very, very, very few. Actually, you can count them on your fingers. At this point of time, it's very early to say that there's a lot more reputed developers on the ground. But yes, that's once we get the clarity on that aspect, we will see a lot more developers considering those markets for future developments.
All right, so Vijayawada is one of those options. Jayashree, you've picked down south as well. Your pick is Hyderabad. Now, tell us why Hyderabad makes your list, especially because it's right now the capital of two different states. How do you think that will play out on the ground in terms of business?
Faith, Hyderabad's fundamentals are really strong. Two different states, two different capitals. Will it take away from Hyderabad? Let me give you some very interesting statistics we got from the ground. You know, there is about 15 lakh direct and 35 lakh indirect jobs in the IT sector in the next 5 years. Irrespective of who's in command, this is going to be a big driver for Hyderabad. You've got huge amount of IT investments. You can see that Amazon, TCS, Facebook, Microsoft all have announced expansion of and growth in Hyderabad city. It already has a lot of stock. A lot of stock is in the waiting in the wings on drawing boards, waiting to come into the market. This is where a small investor should actually be putting in his money, because the city, the city has good infrastructure. You've got good people guiding it right now, and you've got a huge amount of investment, which means lots of jobs.
All right, so remember, high risk, high return, and if you're looking for something that's long term, and we're talking for the next 5 years, then these are the picks you should be considering. In fact, we've put together a list of projects that might be interesting. Of course, there aren't as many projects in some of these areas that we would like, but take a look. If you're looking to invest in Vijayawada, here are some options for you. Pride by Landmark Infra, Leela Residency and Leela Gardens from Shri Vijay Sai Housing and Estates. But if you rather invest in Hyderabad, there's City by PBEL Property Development, Botanica by Universal Realtors, Casa Rouge by SHL Ventures, and Euphoria by the Mantri Group in Manikonda. Okay, time for a few more questions. Gaurav has written in, how can I identify a good residential sector for living as well as long-term capital appreciation in the main expressway sectors of Noida or Greater Noida? Since I travel to Delhi every day, my preferred sectors are 137 and 168. Can you give me two residential projects in these sectors? Well, Om, can you help him out?
Well, I would say, I would not specifically address the question in terms of his sectors, what he is requested for, but certainly I think he can look at ATS 1, which is a project which is basically in Noida, which is ready to occupy, almost few months away from ready to occupy. It's a great project to basically commute from the project to the Delhi city where he works. I guess it's a model, it's one of the projects he can look at. In Greater Noida, I would recommend him a Magun Mavella. That's a project which again he can consider in terms of quality of the product and the design of the product.
Jayashree, do you have anything with those specifications for him on the website right now?
He hasn't mentioned a budget fee. So we've told him what he can do. If you want a 1 BHK, you have to have a budget of about 25 to 30 lakh. There are developers like Para, Sajnara, Supertech, well-known developers, and roughly 450 to 650 square feet, 1 BHK apartments. If you want a 2 BHK apartment, you have to spend about 36 to 52 lakh. That's the range that you have. And you should be able to get a 900 to 1200 square feet apartment. And here you have Gulshan Homes, Paramount, Logics, 3C, Paras. These are all options that are available. He has actually identified the sectors where he can get lots of options. It's just that he has to figure out what his budget is.
All right, you're on the right track then. If you have any more questions, you can get in touch with us. Email ID is on your screen right now. When we come back after the break, we will talk about Bangalore and Mumbai. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Property Guide on ET Now. Both of our guests are still with us and we're talking about investing in property in India. I want to answer a few questions. Venkat has written in. He's decided to buy a 2-bedroom house at Sri Krishna Heights in Badlapur in Mumbai by Avanish Realtors with a rate of 3,200 rupees a square foot. He has a budget of 30 to 35 lakh rupees. He wants to know if it's a good idea to invest in this project and what the rental returns will be. What's your reading right now of Badlapur's future?
Badlapur is a market which is more dominated by local demand. It's more to do with basically local traders, SME owners, basically expanding that specific market. We don't see the market as a rental return market as such. I think the location what he's chosen, the developer what he's chosen, the rate what he's getting is a good rate. I think he should go ahead with it.
All right. Jayashree, is there anything better that he could get at that same budget in Badlapur right now?
In that budget, Faye, there are about 4 or 5 developers who have listed properties on our site, and in a 2-year period, there has been about a 10% appreciation. That is the kind of appreciation that we've seen. He should be able to look at Arihant, Sagar Group, Mohan Group. These are the other options that he has where properties are available on the website. As Om said, a lot of small local developers, and the demand is also very local. The rental return that he can expect is roughly about 6,000 to 7,800, which means that you're putting in about 32 to 35 lakh, and you should be able to get 6,000 to 7,500 rupees per month as a rental return.
All right, let's take another question. Suman has written in, he's planning to buy an apartment in Indiranagar in Bangalore with a budget of 1.3 crore rupees. He's considering a 1,500 square foot apartment in Pradham Grand at 8,200 rupees a square foot. Let me know if this project is a good investment. That seems like a good rate for Indiranagar, doesn't it?
It seems to be a very attractive rate, but I think it would be, frankly, Indiranagar at this price looks to be a steal. I would say that, one should restrict to a gated community. I would not know whether it is a gated community or a standalone building. But yet the price looks to be very attractive.
Also, the other important thing to consider is now, like most other neighborhoods, a lot of the peripheral neighborhoods are becoming part of Indiranagar. So water and approach and things like that in Bangalore, is that important as well?
That's going to be another big challenge, because Bangalore has basically a problem in terms of water, specifically when it comes to water. And one needs to see whether this project is all approved plans, because other things are much more important rather than just basically restricting to just price. So one needs to look at a holistic view rather than just looking at a price.
Jayashree, what's your review of Pradham Grand right now? What are you finding on the website?
It is developed by a group called Monica Constructions, and it's a building contractor and property dealer from Electronic City. The development, the rates seem to be all right, but again, there is not a big track record of how this developer has done. It's a new developer and a very small developer. It is also on the outskirts of the locality, so which is why the pricing is attractive. It's a new developer, and it's a peripheral location within that locality. Check out, I would say, please check out on the ground, and do check with somebody who knows about the developer, whether he has a track record of delivery.
All right, so what we'll do is someone from our team will send you a checklist that you should keep in mind when dealing with a new developer who doesn't have a track record, and you can get back in touch with us. Also, remember, we're going to sit down with Niranjan Hiranandani next week. So if you have a question for him, write to us or tweet it out, and we'll make sure we ask him your question while we sit down with him. That brings us to the end of this show. Om, thank you so much for joining us. Jayashree, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us on The Property Guide. Thank you for watching.